The longest turn board gaming podcast. This is episode 63, Barrage. My name is Tyler.
Hello, this is Kevin.
Mark is checking in.
This is a feature review episode of Barrage where we'll talk about production, theme, gameplay, and things we like and dislike before giving our final thoughts and ratings. We've got our good friend Mark here again, ready with his amazing insights.
That's right. Welcome back.
It's good to be back. It's been a minute.
Yeah. Before we get to the feature review, we'll talk about some of the games we've been playing lately. Yeah, summer's here.
I'm so excited that summer.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big mountain biker, so the past week I've been out like 5 times on the trails. It's been so much fun. Good weather, finally.
Yes.
Get that snow crap out of here.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of skiers and snowboarders. That's not me, though.
There's a time and place for all things, right?
That's right.
Yeah. It's almost getting a little too warm. We've had a really
I don't know.
cool and amazing spring.
What's the ideal temperature for you?
74. 74? Yeah.
I think I'm in the 80s.
Okay.
I like the 80s.
I can appreciate the 80s, but if I have my choice, I'm going to pick 74.
I'm going to go 80, 86, because then I can go up in the mountains.
Okay.
And it gets cooler as you get up a little bit higher. So then it's a good temperature there, right? Yeah. I like that. What about you, Mark?
Well, I mean, it changes during the day, right? If it's warm in the afternoon, the kids are all about going to the pool and stuff, and they've enjoyed doing that, and then it cools down in the evening. So, you know, if it peaks in the afternoon in the mid 80s, I'm totally fine with that. And the evenings get cool. So,
right.
Go for a run, go do some yard work, whatever. Just get outside. It's great.
I like it.
It's hard to complain too much.
Be outside.
Yeah. I like it. Although sometimes I feel like the outside's trying to murder me with allergies.
Yeah.
I went on a ride like 2 days ago and I came back and my eye was exploding and I had Alicia look at it. And I'm like, is there something weird on my eye? And then it turned out just to be allergies, right? I don't like that part.
We went on a trip to Salt Lake and came back and Shelley's black car was yellow from all the pollen and
it makes me want to sneeze just thinking about it.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, that's one of the downsides about this time of year, but it's beautiful outside.
But camping and golf is on the horizon.
Right? Are you planning on golfing this year?
I am. I've done a couple simulator experiences.
Nice.
And I'm ready to play some golf.
Okay.
In fact, my brother-in-laws are coming out at the end of the month and we're doing a golf weekend. So
awesome.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I think I golfed once last year.
I only got a few rounds in.
Yeah, I definitely want to do more of it. I love golf. Every time I go, I'm like, why don't I do this more?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm way overdue. I'm a couple of years overdue, but
that's due to injury, though. Right?
It's due to injury.
Yeah.
I think I'm well, but I'm super motivated. You know, I got to go to the Masters this year, which is just like a shot in the arm for get out and play.
Yeah.
And have been watching, you know, so I'm all for it. I just need to carve out the time, and that's always the challenge. But the thought of being out is very appealing.
All right, let's plan a bear dance trip.
All right, we'll do that after we finish recording.
Let's do it.
All right, let's jump into some of the games that we've been playing lately.
I'll start first. Been playing some awesome games lately. First one I want to talk about is we've talked about this in a lot. I'm not going to belabor it too much here. This is Undaunted Battle of Britain. So Mark and I had a chance to play this. So we tried to schedule a game night like we always do, and schedules just didn't work for most people. But luckily, Mark's schedule was open, and I'm like, awesome, because whenever it's just me and Mark, we usually get together and play Undaunted or Memoir 44 or some, great 2-player game that's hard to get played in, when there's a lot of people at game night. So we broke out Undaunted Battle of Britain. The only Undaunted I think that you've played, Mark, was Undaunted Stalingrad.
Absolutely.
Up to that point, right?
Yeah. Which is always at the top of the list. So.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's like, I think the best one to start with because it's the best Undaunted in my opinion. But Undaunted Battle of Britain could be a close second for me. It's just fantastic. So the theme is, dogfighting, right? So it's the Luftwaffe and the
RAF.
RAF, right? And it starts with
Was it Dunkirk? Was that the first?
It starts with Dunkirk. So there's a bunch of scenarios. It starts with Dunkirk. We played through the first scenario, and then we played through the second scenario. And the second scenario adds a few additional things. There's Stuka that are trying to go bomb these ships. That's the objective of the Luftwaffe is they're trying to bomb the ships with the Stuka, and then the RAF is just trying to get rid of all of the bombers, right? So that was the scenario we played. I think we both agree the first scenario was just a little bit vanilla and not. I mean, it was an introductory scenario,
there
right?
To teach you
learn the mechanics,
dogfighting, right?
Yep, you learn the mechanics. You learn how the planes move, which is a little bit unique in this, right? Because they're always moving. Whenever you play a card, you have to move first, and then you maneuver or you attack. The second scenario is more interesting because there's an objective there, and I think, of all of the Undaunted games that I played, the ones that have a specific objective are the more interesting and the more fun ones to play. So a few differences with Battle of Britain to normal Undaunted. There are communications cards, and you have usually you have two different planes that you're flying, and they have to be within comms. If they're not within comms, then you take Discord cards, and Discord cards are like the fog of war cards in normal Undaunted. Discord cards just clog up your hand, and they're no good. You draw them, and they're dead cards. The only thing you can do with them is initiative, right? Play them for initiative. So that's a little bit different. When you're out of comms, which is you're more than one spot away, then you have to take a Discord card. So you're usually trying to fly your unit of planes together, right? So that's a little bit different. There's no concept of hunker down, but there is a concept of going dark, which you get one of these communication cards out of your hand. So kind of similar there, but just a little bit different. Movement, like I mentioned, is a little bit different. You're always moving because you're in an airplane. It's not a helicopter. There's a few things where you can just kind of sit there, but you're flying in that airspace, right? In that hex. So it's hex based. But when you play a card, you're always moving forward, unless I think you're an ace pilot, then you can maneuver first, which means you turn and then you can fly. We didn't play the scenario with ace pilots, but you're always moving, which is super interesting because you're planning ahead, trying to get yourself in a position where you can do some damage. Ideally, you want to get behind your opponent because when you're behind your opponent, you roll more dice when you attack. So that just feels different in Battle of Britain than normal Undaunted. It's just a different feel for the game. The scale's a little bit different as well. You're not playing on square tiles. You're playing on pieces of a hex board that you put together to form the map. So the scale is a little bit different as well. I absolutely love this game. I think it's amazing. It's funny when you play a scenario, a lot of times you look at it and go, well, this isn't going to be balanced at all, right? It just doesn't seem like this is going to work. And then you start playing through the scenario and you see how well balanced that scenario is. And it more often than not, it comes right down to the end. And that's how our second game was. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, very much.
How many scenarios are there?
I want to say 8.
Because I've played through 8, but I couldn't remember if I finished it or not.
Yeah.
So when we did our Undaunted episode, I think it was episode 43, we've kind of featured all of the Undaunted games that have been released up to that point. I think I picked Battle of Britain as my favorite out of all of them.
I think you did, yeah.
But I hadn't finished Stalingrad, and I still, unfortunately, haven't finished Stalingrad. But I love the battle mechanics, and it creates some of those awesome experiences that, I mean, just top off what has already been experienced in other Undaunteds, right?
Yeah.
The bomber mission one.
When we played, it was awesome.
I love that one every time I play it.
Yeah.
And I'm usually the one trying to take out the bombers.
Yeah.
And it is just so much fun.
Oh, I've played both sides now. So
Oh, you
I
have?
was the bombers when I played you, and then I was the RAF when I played against Mark, and they were both fun to play.
Yes.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you think of it, Mark?
No, I mean, what's interesting about it is that your point about you think it's going to go one way or it's unbalanced starting off, and somehow it always evens back out, or, you know, the return to the norm. You can tell it's designed very well. And it always somehow lends itself to some just epic move that, for better or worse, either you put together or happens to you, and you can't complain. You're just like, that was awesome. I mean, I can't even be mad about how this played out. And there were a few, because I think in the second scenario where I was flying the Stukas, and I think I bombed a couple of your ships pretty early on.
Away, and I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah, I was like, leader in the clubhouse, this is pretty simple. I've got everything lined up.
Yep.
And then it just fell apart. It quickly, like it unraveled quickly, and it got to the point where the difference became who had initiative during the last play.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's how close it was.
Yep.
And another point I was going to bring up, so many of my games, whether it was Battle of Britain or other Undaunteds, so many of my plays have come down to who gets initiative in that last round.
Yep.
And I think that's common with really good dueling games. It happens all the time when I play Star Wars Unlimited with Logan, where you're trying to do as much damage as you possibly can and then get the initiative before the next round starts, because a lot of times that initiative determines who wins in the next round. So
it's incredible how it ends up like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny. I'll always remember the last part of that game. I ran off the map, right? And when you do that, then there's something negative that happens. I can't remember what that is, but something happens.
You like rotate and have to move along, and
you rotate and you lose
a card.
You lose a card. I don't remember what it is, but that happened. You usually don't want that to happen. But I ran off the map, and then it forced me to turn, which ended up turning me in the right direction to be able to come back at Mark from behind and shoot his Stukas from behind, right? Yeah. And I ended up having this like crazy draw where I drew two or three of those cards in my last draw, and then it was able to get initiative as well.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those improbable kind of amazing things that happened right at the end,
And the bombers move so slowly. Yeah. And if you miss with the bomber, then it has to come back around or move on to the next target.
You missed the target. Yeah. And then you had to come around to the other one. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
The edge mechanic, I thought that was hilarious too, because it's not like it sneaks up on you all of a sudden, you're like, oh no, what do I do? Like, you can see this a couple moves ahead and you're like, I'm in deep trouble already. Like, this is going to happen and I just have to suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. How did I get myself in this position? It's a great game. I was glad to break it out again. I'm excited to work through some of the other scenarios. But if you haven't checked out Undaunted and you like 2-player games, if you're into World War II at all, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. Pick it up. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, just check out the details of all the players too. I mean, there's a lot to appreciate with the production, but each character has a name and their ability, and it's really well done. Thematically, it nails it. A lot of fun.
Awesome. So David Thompson, one of the co-designers on Undaunted, is one of our favorite designers. The game that I'm going to talk about has a couple of our other favorite designers. This is Nucleum, which was designed by Simone Luciani and David Turchi.
2 powerhouses.
Yes. And I don't know, the more I play of Simone Luciani's games, the more and more I'm like, this dude is just gold.
Could it be, maybe your favorite designer at this point?
Definitely up there. Okay. So, and this is published by Board and Dice, and it feels very much like a T game in some ways. It's reminiscent of Brass in a lot of ways. There's some networking stuff. It's a big Euro game, and it takes place in alternate 19th century industrialization age. However, nuclear power, or Nucleum, is discovered, and there's uranium, so it's fueling this urbanization and expansion. I played this on Sunday night with my son Logan. We played again the next night, last night. If we weren't recording a podcast tonight, I would be playing this again tonight because it is fantastic. So it's this big sprawling game board that has different cities, and then you can connect them with railways. In each city, you can build things like turbines and urban buildings. You have a big player board that has a bunch of buildings that you can build like you do in Brass. Each player has a unique focus where they have 8 different technologies that are unique that they can acquire over the course of the game, and another ability that's associated with one of their turbines. when they get that built. The main play is you have these action tiles that you start out with, and those are unique to your focus as well. And they each generally have 2 actions on them, and you have 2 choices. You can play it above your player board, and you get to use both of those actions, and you hang on to the tile. You can also complete a contract if you play it up there and you've met a requirement for a contract. Or you can play it on the board as a railway to connect cities. And the cities have 1, 2, or sometimes 3 sections of rails in between them. If you place it on the board as a railway, you still get to do the actions if they match the colors of the cities or other railway tiles that they're adjacent to. So each action tile, it's got a top half and a bottom half. It's got one of the possible colors for a city. So there's white, there's purple, there's green, and orange. Some of them have wilds as far as colors. So when you place them on the board, you're losing that tile for the rest of the game, but you're now connecting your cities and building networks, which helps because you need to transport uranium and coal to energize the buildings that you've built out there so that you can score them and get cool rewards. The action tiles have things like develop, which lets you draft additional action tiles that you can then have more turns with. Urbanize, it lets you build a building off your player board. When you energize those later, which is one of the other action symbols on these action tiles, you'll get rewards and end game scoring for any buildings that you've energized. You can also collect contracts. There are 3 different tracks. There's a track for money on your player board, a track for workers, and a track for victory points. And some of the actions also let you advance on those tracks so that when you take income, you score whatever is on those tracks. So you might get victory points, you'll get a bunch of workers to add to your supply, or you will get additional money when you do a recharge. Okay, so you're taking actions with these action tiles, 1 action tile per turn. And like I said, you can play them on your player board or on the game board. And then at a certain point, you're going to be close to being out of action tiles or out of action tiles, and you'll have to recharge. And at that point, you'll collect all your workers, your money, and any victory points that you've gotten. And then you'll take your star thing, your little marker thing, and you'll put it on this achievement track based on how many achievements you got over the course of the round. You generally get achievements from energizing buildings, as well as some of the action tiles give you achievements, and some of the other bonuses and stuff do too. So you put out this achievement track marker. It will score at the end of the game based on what section it is. It's multipliers, kind of a little bit like Scythe, but what the multiplier is variable between games. So one section might have the number of orange buildings that you have out, or the number of mines that you have out. So there is a lot going on in this game. I think on BGG it's got a complexity of over 4, but
it's like 4.1, I think. Once
we started playing, it's really not that complex. It was really easy to learn. I really enjoy it. The things that I love about it are the asymmetric technologies. I love when your action tiles are running low or out, you can use your turn to recharge, but based generally on how many buildings you've energized, you'll place your marker on that achievement track. And there's lots of considerations there, trying to eke out extra achievement scoring by energizing so you score higher. And there's just a lot of interesting things going on. But the action tiles, they are so cool. Just the variety. It's like Toletum. It's like some of those games that just make you feel powerful on almost every turn, right?
Yeah, those are cool.
And some of the action tiles that you draft, they'll have extra little bonuses on them. So they'll make things cheaper or cost fewer workers to do. Or they'll, like there's one that it has the contract action on it. And when I play that, and I get to take a contract, you always get a reward, and you get to choose between 4 rewards, depending on what slots you have open. It doubles that reward. So there's just cool little modifiers like that make the action tiles really cool. Plus the decision of, hey, I can play this in my board and do both actions and maybe fulfill a contract, and then I have that tile for later. Or I can play it on the board and expand my network and my cities and connecting them, but then that tile's gone forever. At a certain point, you have to start expanding in the city or on the board, and it's like, man, which tiles am I going to get rid of?
Just agonizing decisions, right?
Yeah, but they're fulfilling decisions. So
it's interesting. Like when we talk to Terzi, he designs games like that where they're super complex. But when you play them once or twice, it just makes sense, right?
Does.
Like what you're doing makes sense. And that's a conscious decision that he makes in designing, which I think is really cool. Yeah. And you look at a lot of his designs, like I could go back, I've played Anachrony a lot now, but I could take a long break, go back, and what I'm doing in that game just makes sense.
It feels natural.
It feels natural. And Voidfall is the same way.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that game has a lot going on. It's super complex, but the things make sense, right?
Do.
The iconography on there, you can just follow things and it makes sense. And it sounds like Nucleum is similar to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because I actually thought about that while we were learning and playing our first time. I was like, this stuff just makes sense, just like he said when he was talking about it, right?
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's just a great game. I'm not going to make any grandeur.
The question's coming, right? Like,
I'm not.
What is your favorite Terzi game now? Is this going to be? You got to rank them.
I will say Brass is going to be collecting a little more dust for a while because I want to explore this game a lot more. I'm not going to make any grand predictions or anything. This is not going to be the last time I talk about this game. Okay. And like I said, if we weren't recording tonight, I would be playing this game 3 nights in a row. So,
well, I'm glad you got it. It's the debate of I have so many amazing heavy games already. Yeah. It's like, do I need to add one more when there's already a copy in the group, right?
Right.
And probably not, right? Yeah. Like I own Barrage. Spoiler alert, it's amazing. I love it. Are you going to buy it? Because I have it,
2020, Tyler? Yes.
Yeah, right?
2024? No.
Yeah. So I probably won't be picking it up, but I'm excited to check it out and play your copy.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it made me excited for the expansions. I've also pulled back on buying as many expansions as I used to, but I think I'm going to explore them for sure.
Oh, expansions are so hard, right? Because when you're introducing games to new people, you don't want to do the expansions, but you really want to play the expansions.
Yes.
So it's tough to get expansions played. Yeah. But yeah, that's cool.
So both my plays are at 2-player. I've had a blast with it. I would like to play this at 3 and maybe 4. I think 4 might be a little overdoing it time-wise, but it's a fantastic game. So that's Nucleum from Board and Dice.
And for those who can't hear it, his eyes are twinkling.
Yes.
He is very high on this game.
I don't know. Does he like it?
We're at some point going to revisit our top 30 or do a top 50 this year. And
I'm excited to do that again.
This game will be on that list. So
nice.
I would definitely say that. So.
We may need to get in on that then and take a run at this game too.
Yeah.
I'm kind of intrigued at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we had a less busy summer, I would have saved this so that we could do a feature review of it, but we've got other plans and
we got our summer
vacations and all kinds of stuff going on. So I just wanted to get it out there.
Nice. Safe bet that this will make it to CabinCon to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. The next game I want to talk about, we were sent some games from Asmodee. One of the games that they sent us was One Deck Dungeon. This is a dungeon crawler, and no surprise, it is a deck of cards. It comes in a really small box. It has all of the trappings of a normal dungeon crawler, right? You have heroes. You've got a paladin. You've got a warrior, an archer, a rogue, a mage. You are going deep into a dungeon, 3 levels deep into a dungeon. Okay. You can level up your character. You can get loot. You can get, special abilities. You can use potions. So anything you can think of in a normal dungeon crawler, you can do those things in this game, but it's in a compact box and it takes about 30 to 45 minutes to play. The way that the game works is you pick one of you pick your character, and then you shuffle this deck of cards. Okay. The deck of cards is the timer. You put a stairs card at the bottom of the deck, and then at the start of every turn, time is going to pass. So you turn over 2 cards, and that is the passage of time. And there's a lot of things in the game that'll force time to pass. Because when you get through that whole deck, then you have to delve deeper into the dungeon. And then you take the discard pile, shuffle it back up, put that stairs card at the bottom of the deck, and go to the second level, right? So time will pass at the beginning of your turn, and then you explore or enter a room. So each card has a door on the back of it. So when you explore, you flip over 4 of those cards, and there's 4 doors that you can go explore. If you enter the room, you flip over one of those doors and you encounter something. It can be a trap. It can be some kind of monster. It can be any number of things, right? Then you have a choice. You can either look at it and say, I'm not nearly powerful enough to attempt that. I'm going to flee. You say, I get out of here. And then it goes on to your next turn. The problem is, if you do that, time is going to pass on your next turn, right? And that deck's going to go towards the next level of the dungeon. And as you get through further levels, it gets a little bit more difficult. If you decide to go and attack that monster, then you have a pool of dice that you're going to roll. So each character that you have has a certain special ability. So they're asymmetric, right? And there's a sword symbol, there's a feet symbol, there's this blue symbol. I think it's magic is what it represents. They represent dice that you're going to roll. So if I'm the warrior, I have 4 swords. I'm going to roll 4 yellow dice. I have 2 feet. I'm going to roll 2 pink dice, and I have 1 magic die, 1 blue die. I'm going to roll all of these dice on my turn. And then there, on whatever you're encountering, there's these square boxes that have numbers in them, and they have symbols in them. You roll the dice, and you have to cover up those symbols with the dice that you roll and the number that you roll on those dice. So if it's a 6, you have to roll a 6 in order to cover up that spot. If there is a shield on it, you have to do the shields first. If you have special abilities, you can manipulate the dice to get what you need. You can always trade in 2 dice to get a black die, which is a wild that can cover everything. So the whole goal is you want to cover all of these spots with dice, and then you defeat that monster. You get loot, or you get experience that you can trade in to level up your character. You can get an item. There's like 3 or 4 things that you can choose to do with this card once you defeat it, which is kind of cool because you can customize the game to be played how you want it to be played. So you defeat that, then you go to your next turn, you keep going until you get to the big bad boss at the end. So you get to the 3rd level, and then you have a boss fight. And the boss is hard, right? This is not an easy game, but you do the same thing. You roll dice, and you have to cover these skulls on this card, this boss card. And if you defeat a certain number of skulls on, through various rounds, then you defeat the boss, and you're the ultimate winner of the game. It is a fun game. It gives you the dungeon crawler experience in 30 to 45 minutes.
Much smaller package. There is an app, and it's kind of funny. We got the game sent to us. I played it on the table, and then I found out there was an app, and I bought the app.
Nice.
Right? Because the app is a lot quicker. There's no setup. You can play it wherever, and it's a really well done app, and I like it a lot. One downside to the game is it's very dependent on your dice rolls. If you roll low, then you're just not going to do good, right? And there's ways to mitigate that with skills and special abilities. But early on in the game, you don't have those yet. I recently played a game. I played a game today, and I rolled like 1s and 2s the whole time, and I was just
destroyed very quickly.
So, there's the chance there that you would get obliterated before you even get to the boss, or do you always make it to the boss?
Nope, absolutely. I think on level 2, and I got defeated in like level 2, right? But it gets more and more interesting as you get more and more special powers, and you have to figure out the puzzle of how you're going to manipulate these dice to get what you need. And you can go into a dungeon going, man, or open a door and encounter some monster and think, man, I don't think I can do this, but maybe I can. There's a really good loot there that I want to get. I'm just going to take a chance, roll the dice, and you're like, yeah, I rolled awesome. I got 6s. And then you defeat it and get all this cool loot. That's really exciting and really fun. And that whole puzzle of manipulating the dice, like I said, is really cool. So I think it's a good one. If you like dungeon crawlers, I would recommend it for sure.
Cool. I'm going to check out the app, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think you'd be disappointed.
Okay.
It's a good one. So that's One Deck Dungeon. I don't think I mentioned who it was designed by. This is designed by Chris Cieslik, with art done by Alana Cervenak and Will Pitzer.
Well done.
Thank you.
Another game that I want to talk about, and I think this is our last one that we're going to talk about before we get into Barrage, but I heard about this game listening to Rolling Dice and Taking Names. I picked it up on the way home from our local gaming store, the really close one that I normally don't buy games from because they're very overpriced. And
they are. I go in there every once in a while, but I don't buy much there. But
yeah, same thing. So this is Vampire Village. It's designed by Maxime Ramborg, and the artists are Jerome Leraculi and Guillaume Tavernier. I apologize.
Some tough names tonight.
Holy cow.
Yeah, tough names.
This is published by Studio H. I got to say, it's a tower defense kind of tableau building game. There's some definitely take that, but it doesn't feel bad. I played this a couple weeks ago with Logan, and it was just kind of like, I don't know. And I didn't get this out at our last game night. I was thinking about it. Well, we got it out again tonight right before we started recording, and Mark and Kevin got to play it with me. So basically, it's played over 2 rounds. In the first round, you're putting out buildings that you add to your village. And each time you put out a building, it'll have some type of qualifier on it that will let you add villagers on the card that you're putting out as well. And you're building within the constraints of a 4x4 village. And when you put out a new tile, it has to go adjacent to a previous one. So there's buildings, and then there's also heroes, which give you special ability when you're defending against the monster sometimes if they are successfully attacking the village. You have a hand of 6 cards, you draft one, add it to your village, pass your cards to the next player. So it's a revolving draft, like 7 wonders, and you're building up your village, and you're adding these villagers to different tiles. When you place heroes, you can also move some of the villagers around to potentially more safe spaces in your village. But if you're not very good at this game like us,
I'm terrible at it. Yeah,
there's not a lot of safe spaces. Mm-hmm. So after you add buildings in the first round, you're going to then draft monsters. So you get a hand of 3 cards. You pick one card to have attack your village, and you pass one to the player on your left and one to the player on your right. So you're going to end up with 3 cards. And depending on what the monster type is, they're going to attack a different side of your village. So if the left side is witches, the right side is vampires, and the top is werewolves. And there's also demons that will attack first. The order of the other ones attacking is randomized. You'll do another round of adding more monsters. So everybody's going to end up with 6 monsters around their village, and then they're going to attack. Then, depending on the order, the witches might attack next. And if you successfully defend, you move on and you're okay. If not, you're going to lose a tile or a card and any villagers on it. And then if you still can't successfully defend, comparing defense score versus attack score, they're going to attack again until either you successfully defend or there's no more witches to attack you. Everybody might do the werewolves next, depending on the order that's determined randomly. The werewolves are kind of multipliers off of each other. The vampires are just straight values of 1 through 6, and they will attack everything on the right. I didn't mention this, but each of the building tiles will defend against a certain type of monster, or maybe multiple types. And so they have values on them that is your defense value if they're on the furthest left, furthest right, or top row, right? You play through that one round, and then that's the attack, and you evaluate all those. Then you do everything again in a second round where everything is more powerful. The building cards are more powerful. The heroes are more powerful, but the monsters are way more powerful.
I didn't realize that going into the first game, but yeah, they are much more powerful.
And then after the second round of attacks, then you just determine who has the most points by whoever has the most villagers left and how many monsters are still around their village. So for each of those things, each player gets 1 victory point. If you successfully defend against monsters on either side or the top, then those monster cards will stay there from the first round to the second round and from second round to final scoring. So I loved this the second time we played. The first time, like I said, I played with just Logan. It wasn't as a good of experience as with multiple players or with more players.
Because it's like one person. There's one choice of who you're going to attack, right?
Right.
You have a decision. Like we played 3-player. It's like, okay, who can I hurt more? you know, with these cards. So.
You're taking damage. You're doing tons of damage to other people, but it doesn't feel bad. It's just fun, and you just have to laugh about it, right, Mark?
I mean, that was my takeaway, right? Like I really enjoyed it because bad things are going to happen.
Yes.
There's some games where you use your skill and you can have this amazing high score. This is not that.
Yeah.
Like trouble is coming, embrace the suck and just laugh at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for one play, like it was super cool. I totally dig it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a type of game. You can't take it seriously, right? Yeah. Things are going to happen, and that's just the type of game it is, which is awesome.
Well, and the nice thing is it plays up to 5-player. I think it'll scale pretty well with time. I mean, it'll be a little bit longer of a play with 4 or 5 players, but really you could play this game in 20, 25 minutes. And for the experience that you get in that amount of time and the laughs that come out of 2 columns getting just completely obliterated by the witches.
Yep, that happened.
Yeah. Or the werewolves. One of the times the vampires were attacking me, and it was like, okay, I could get rid of my lowest card, but I'm still going to take damage, okay? Or I've got to get rid of this card that has 3 villagers on it. There's no way
around it, yeah. You could not protect them.
I had 4 cards to defend, and they all had values, but because the vampire strength was so high, even when I would remove a vampire card after not successfully defending, I was still going to take another hit again and again, and it was just kind of brutal.
Yeah. I thought are they the warriors?
Or the heroes.
The heroes. I thought they were interesting, right? Because to start the game, I'm like, they don't seem that great.
Right.
But really, when they get attacked, they remove the highest value card, the one that's hurting you the most,
right.
Which can be a huge deal, right? Also, we kind of discovered as the game went on, you can put them on the edge, and they can kind of be a sacrifice
you're kind of dangling them out there,
right? So they get hit first, and then they also get rid of the biggest card. So it was interesting to see as you played more how the strategy unfolded a little bit more, right?
Well, and we both of you guys in the first round had witch cards that pointed at how many witch cards I had. Yep. For their strength.
And you had nothing.
I had nothing.
It was great.
And it was great. And then in the second round, I ended up with 3 witches. And Mark had 4, and all of our witches had strong attack power, and we just kind of got obliterated, each individually our own villages.
Yeah. Well, to me, that was the highlight of the game. As soon as we did the final reveal of the last card, we all looked down, and we all had this, oh, crap moment, all at the same time.
Yeah.
You kind of assess, what do I have? You look at everyone else, and you're like, this is not going to go well.
Well, let's see how this plays
out.
Let
the mayhem begin.
Well, and like Mark said, this is not a game that you're going to score a ton of points in, but we did all make it out of single digits, which was good. So
we did. I consider that a success all around.
Yeah. So that is Vampire Village. It's in the $20-$25 range. Check it out. It's a good icebreaker for game night for sure.
So I think that wraps up what we've been playing lately. Let's jump into our feature review of Barrage.
All right, let's do it. So with our feature reviews, we'll do a rules summary, and then we'll talk about production, and we'll get into theme a little bit, and then we'll talk about the things we like and dislike about the gameplay, and then we'll give our final thoughts and final score.
Let's do it.
All right.
To start it off, Kevin's going to hit us with the rules.
Barrage is designed by Tommaso Battista and Simone Luciani, with art done by Mauro Alocchi, Antonio De Luca, and Roman Roland Kutenikov. It's published by Cranio Creations. In Barrage, each player is one of 4 CEOs representing 4 national companies aiming to prevail in the race to produce energy. You will buy and use technologies to build dams and hydroelectric powerhouses and to connect them by building conduits. This allows you to use the water you have stored to produce energy and to therefore fulfill contracts. The player with the most victory points at the end of the game is the winner. You can score victory points by producing the most energy, activating scoring bonus tiles, uncovering income on your company board, fulfilling contracts, using various technology tiles, and achieving end-of-game goals. The game is played on a map that represents a part of the Alps and is divided horizontally into 3 areas: mountains, hills, and plains. Each area is identified by a different background and a specific symbol. There are a number of basins in each of the 3 areas. Each basin has building spaces where players can build their structures. Basins are naturally connected by rivers. Colored conduits connect the dams of a basin to the powerhouses of another basin. Players can build 3 types of structures on the map: dams, conduits, and powerhouses. Building these structures will allow players to produce energy. Producing energy is the main focus of the game. In order to produce energy, you need 3 elements: a powerhouse you control, a dam you control or neutral dam with at least 1 water drop behind it, and a conduit connecting them that anyone controls. In order to produce energy, you must move water drops from a dam to a connected powerhouse. Each conduit has a production value depicted on the map. Each water drop traveling along a conduit generates an amount of energy units equal to its production value. When production is over, the water drops leave the powerhouse used for production and follow their natural course along rivers, other basins, and possibly onto other dams. Energy is recorded on an energy track, and players can then fulfill a contract based on how much energy was produced. So how do you do all of this? Every player has 12 engineers that they can place on various worker placement spots on the management board. The management board will allow you to get resources to build structures, get new contracts, add water to the board, get money, run water through your power plants, and turn your construction wheel. The construction wheel is where you place technology tiles and resources in order to build structures on the map. Each player has worker placement spots on their company board. When engineers are placed in these spots, a technology tile representing a structure is then placed on the wheel with the required resources, and the wheel is turned. The technology tile and resources will not be available to the player again until the wheel has completed 1 full turn. Players will continue taking turns until all engineers have been placed on the board and everyone is passed. More water will then be placed on the board, and players will get points for end-of-round scoring. The next round will then begin. After 5 rounds, the game will end. Players get points for meeting the end-of-game objective, for leftover resources, and for water drops held by their personal dams. The person with the most points wins. So Barrage is a big game. I obviously didn't go in detail over all the rules, but that should give you a high-level overview of how the game plays. Let's get back to the table to see what we thought of Barrage.
Thanks, Kevin, for the rules. So I'm an idiot. Well, barrage, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean? To me, it means like a barrage of bullets or...
Right.
And I was like, is it a barrage of water that's flowing down the river?
Right.
Barrage is also a noun that I'd never known the definition for. A dam placed in a water course to increase the depth of water.
Oh.
So it actually has an applicable name to the theme of this game.
Well, apparently I'm an idiot too, because I did not know that.
I didn't know that. Did you know that, Mark?
No freaking clue.
Yeah. So I was like, a barrage of water that's cascading down the river? I don't know.
And despite what has been said before, this is not about water rights in Idaho either, right?
It could be.
It could be. It could be. I mean, this is set in the Alps.
Yeah. Is it?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
expansion though. Potential, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I want to know where 4 waterways perfectly line up next to each other, though. Where does that happen?
I don't. In the land of Barrage.
Okay.
I don't know.
So I guess let's talk a little bit about theme for a second, right? This theme is water rights somewhere, right? Fighting over waterways, and which is one of the least interesting themes I've ever played. And yet this game is amazing.
It is. It's a good game.
But how do you feel about the theme?
I couldn't care less. I mean, it's kind of a weird theme, right? Moving water around, building dams, building conduits. It doesn't jazz me up, but the gameplay is where it's at, right?
Yes,
the gameplay is amazing. It's a lot of fun, but theme, meh.
Yeah.
Mark? Yeah, no, I agree with you.
It wasn't jazzing you up?
It was lame. Like it was lame because I didn't realize until, Kevin just went over the rules that, wait, I was a CEO of a power company? I played this twice and didn't even realize that was the case. And so
yeah, and there's more backstory to it, right?
Which when you're teaching a long game or an involved game, you don't always jump into the backstory and theme as much. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
you're teaching the game, right?
It's the French Alps in October of 1922, right?
I will say that thematically, that each player has a character that has a backstory and, talks a little bit about where they are. And I'm always into that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. With some asymmetric player powers, which is nice.
That's right. But if you would have put this in a lineup and said, you can pick from any of the games and these are the themes from which, you can select your game, and you would have said you can move water droplets down a board, that would probably not have scored well.
Okay. Maybe this will pique your interest.
Right.
Okay.
More theme.
French Alps, October 17th, 19...
Wait, October? That makes all the difference in the world.
Right. There you go. October 17th, 1922. The electric cableway whirs through forests and valleys, climbing the mighty mountains, just like a Jules Verne novel. Colonel Dassler thinks. He can now spot scores of mighty mechs drilling the mountain, dripping tons of concrete while the landscape is painted with the crackling purple energy of dozens of Tesla coils. I could continue.
I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. But there is backstory to it, right? There's something there. It's just, I don't know if it comes through in the gameplay.
Yeah, right. The mechanics are where it's at.
Absolutely.
So we could probably move on from theme. What about production? What do we like about the production of this game?
So I thought the artwork was really cool, actually. And that's where I was a little confused because, I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, a game by its box, but I saw it and I thought, dude, this looks awesome. Yeah. I couldn't translate that into the theme, right? So very high marks on the production. The artwork was very, very cool. It was consistent. The mechanics, we'll spend plenty of time talking about that. But I do give it high marks for, presentation and the way it is represented.
Yeah, I picked this game up on a whim. It's been probably over 2 years now that I've had it. And I probably bought it because of the box. I mean, it just draws you in.
It totally does.
The art's amazing. It's just really well done. You open it up, the board is really well done. All the lakes that are on the board are kind of a shiny, it's a little bit of a different texture than the rest of the board. That's really well done. Yeah. The concrete mixers and the components, they're really, really small. Really small. Some of them are just really small, but they're really well done.
Yeah,
I mean, they look good. Power plants are different. The elevations, the dams themselves are different. Yeah.
Between players, right?
Yep.
And that's really cool. I love when there's features like that. It's a beautiful game.
It is. Yeah.
Of waterways.
I completely agree. Oh, and another thing that they did is, and I would never do this, I don't think, is once you're used to the game and know the values of everything and where all the conduits go and all that kind of stuff and how things are connected, you can flip the board over and it's just art, right?
Yes.
It's very subtle where the conduits flow from basin to basin, right? But it takes away all of that, the stuff that makes the game easy to play and just has the beautiful art on the board. And we talked about that and we're like, I don't think I'd ever do this. Yeah. But if you got to the point where you knew that board so well that you could just flip it over and play, then it's even more of an experience just appreciating the art of the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else on components?
I like the wheel aspect.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the gameplay because that's one of my favorite parts, but it's functional.
Barely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's upgraded components that you can get for this. I've got the
base game. There was recently a Kickstarter, and I don't know what I got, to be honest. But as part of the Kickstarter, they have wooden wheels that you can get. Oh. And I'm guessing that's quite the upgrade, right? And it's hopefully spins a little bit better as you're spinning your construction wheel to try to get your
sort
stuff.
Of unwieldy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you load up with engineers and builders that the pieces stay intact. It's a little unwieldy, but yeah.
Yeah. You nailed it. It's functional.
Yeah.
But that's about the best you can say about it. I think.
I love the bases and the elevations.
Yeah.
I think it's so satisfying to build elevations and see that this dam now holds more water
droplets.
Yeah.
3 water droplets.
It's on the edge of your seat stuff. Not really,
but it's satisfying.
But
it's satisfying.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, the art's beautiful. The components are functional, I think. And
I think it's well done. Yeah.
The art is amazing. That's by far my favorite part of the production.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. What are some things are there any things we don't like about the production that we haven't already maybe hinted at? Or
I mean, I think the microscopic concrete mixers and other components that bugs me just a little. Excavators and concrete mixers bugs me just a little bit. And we've already mentioned the wheel. The wheel is just a little bit, like you said, Mark, unwieldy. So, but other than that, I think they nailed it. Yeah. It's good.
Cool.
Good stuff.
All right, so let's move into gameplay. What are some of the things that we love about the gameplay of this game?
So I have had a love-hate relationship with this game for quite some time.
Really?
Now. Oh yeah. What I love about it though is getting your network set up is so satisfying because it takes a lot of work, right? And when you can get your network to where you have a dam upstream that you're generating energy from, and it's feeding right down to another dam that you've set up that you can just get more energy from. And then you take that water somewhere else and you can just follow it all the way down the board and continue to get energy from that is super satisfying and super fun. I love that part of the game.
But chances are someone else is going to get in the way and prevent you from doing that.
And if the game is played correctly, that will happen, yes. Right? They're gonna funnel that water away from you. You can do things to kind of prevent that. You can build a dam on that spot that costs 3 above, right? And then you're pretty much assured when water comes that way, you're going to get that water. But if you don't have the money or you don't want to build on the one that's on the top, you build on the one that's on the bottom, somebody could build on the top and start, capturing that water, right?
And divert it away from yours.
Divert it away. And even if, exactly, they build a conduit and they suck it over to their side where they've built their awesome network, right? And they're like, nope, you're not doing what you want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do, which is cool. And it makes, turn order super important, where if you're first, you can take that water first before somebody else does. And that's a consideration on that energy track because depending on where you're at on the energy track is turn order for the next round. So do you want to win and get those points? Because you get bonuses for being further along and you get bonuses for the end of round scoring. Or do you want to be just a little bit behind? Because then you're ahead of that person that's going to take the water from you. That's really cool. And that's satisfying to think about as well.
Yeah. So I think that is a great part of this game and kind of fighting over, that's area control really. So there's all these different actions that you can do, but I love the variability in how much they cost. So some of them will cost at their cheapest just 1 engineer, or sometimes they'll cost 2 engineers. But when those slots start filling up, you then might have to pay more engineers to do that action.
And more money.
And or more money. And so there's kind of this race of taking different actions, and a lot of your decisions are kind of based on what your opponents are doing and what they're going for. So, I mean, once people start going for the turbine station where they're scoring the water energy by filtering it down, right? You go to the turbine station to do that action. And there's a lot of those slots, but they get expensive, and they also have negative values that are associated with them because you're going to score
the malice values. Yeah.
Right. I just love that there's so many different actions available, but they have different costs, and it's kind of like a supply and demand thing. Like, where if the turbine station is getting hit hard, like, then stuff becomes really expensive and harder to do, right?
Well, and you're thinking about the contracts you have too, right?
Yeah.
Where I need to generate 10 energy to fulfill this contract, and the only way I can do that is by going on the first spot in
which
that
gives you a +2 bonus.
turbine station, which gives you a +2 bonus. And it's like that, like, stress of, I see Mark, he can take that action. I don't know if he's going to do it or not, but no, he's doing something else. Yes, I can do it, and I can fulfill this contract, and that contract's going to let me turn the wheel 3 times, and it's that comboing that's interesting and cool.
Yeah. Well, and you take that first slot. I still want to do it too, but now to get the +2 bonus, it cost me 3 coins and an extra engineer,
which you have 12 engineers to start the round. They go quick.
Yeah, they do.
And then
it feels like a lot, doesn't it?
It does.
It's almost like you start flush, and then you realize I have so many things that I need to do that I want to do, that you get maybe half of them, and then you start getting blocked, and then you got to adjust. Right.
And then you're out of money, out of engineers, and you're like, I had so many things more things I wanted to do.
It's almost got like a Terra Mystica Gaia project feel to it, or Clans of Caledonia, where you have a finite amount of various different resources, and how am I going to spend them? And I don't know. It's just exciting.
Well, and you're pulling things off, structures off of the board, and you're uncovering bonuses. And I love the fact that when you uncover it, you get that bonus immediately. And then it's income for the rest of the game, which is really cool. You can get victory points. You can move your wheel. You can get excavators or concrete mixers, and that's just bonus stuff that you uncovered, which is, I think, really cool.
Yeah.
What else do we like?
I love the wheel.
I love the wheel.
And so
this is part of my love-hate.
Oh, is that
a little bit? Yeah.
So anytime you do a construction, you're going to put the excavators or the concrete mixers that you use to build that building type, and the action, or like the building, I don't know,
action tile, or
the
whatever
action tile that it only builds certain types of buildings, right? You start out with a number of them, and there's a
technology tile.
Technology tile.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And there's a drafting, so you can add more, but the base ones that you start with are enough to play the game. You put the tile.
There's only 4, if I'm not mistaken, right?
There's 4.
There's 6 slots in the wheel.
There is, but if you play just the very base game, there's a question mark one.
And
it's a wild, and you can use it for whatever. If you're playing the advanced game, you have the patents where you can get additional technology, and you start with 4.
And those are awesome because they all have special bonuses associated with them. Yep. But anyway, you put the tile that you use to build, let's say I'm building a conduit, right? I use the conduit tile, technology tile, and whatever it costs to build that. And it goes on this wheel, and it rotates once. And then for you to get those excavators back, the wheel has to rotate all the way around.
And that wheel doesn't rotate just because. You have to make sure you're taking an action to rotate it, or rotate it in some other way.
Or contract bonuses will rotate it.
Or player board bonuses, that kind of stuff.
There is an action that you can take that on the game board that rotates it. It's hard to get that technology tile back, and
I remember the first time you played it on BGA. You're like, how does this even work?
I can't do anything. Exactly. I was like, I guess I'll take 5 coins again. I had no idea what was going on. Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that wheel. I do like it. I think that makes it really interesting because it is hard to get it to rotate and to get those those tiles back and those excavators and so that you can build additional buildings.
Well, that's such a huge variable too, because you have to align so many different things all at the same time and do it consecutively to really score well. And because the wheel, and this is why I was asking how many tiles you start with, because typically you're not going to have enough tiles to fill this thing, which means there's a couple of moves where all you're doing is rotating it to free up those resources.
Yeah.
And you have to do it in such a way that the resources that you're freeing up are the ones that you need to take the action that you want.
You're like, I got excavators, but I need concrete mixers, dang it.
Exactly. And so it requires a lot of forethought. My perception was that, it's not a game that you can just the strategy will just manifest itself to you, automatically, right? You have to have some vision of what you kind of hope so you can minimize the wasted movements and the wasted action. And the wheel is really the one piece to the game that makes that happen.
Yeah.
I mean, the worker placement, you're fighting over spots, but you can block yourself if you pick the wrong order of building, or you use your resources before you should, or you don't have them, because you've got to think, if I play now, I may not have this available for 5 more moves.
Yep.
Then what?
Yeah, it's super tight resource management.
Very much.
Very tight resource management.
Yeah, the player interaction is interesting. I mean, the game that we played on the tabletop, which was Mark and I's first real game, I was milking this neutral dam.
Yep. That everybody has access to. Yeah.
For a couple of rounds. And then Mark added a conduit to it. And then it was whoever gets initiative for the rest of the game each round.
Whoever's first
is going to score big from this. And it was, I was living the high life, and then my world came crashing around.
Mark came in and took those water rights right away from me.
Well, that's the cool thing about it, right? It's such an interesting wrinkle that in each of the basins, you have 2 different spots where you can put conduits. So you could potentially, like Tyler said, you could think this is mine and I'm rolling in it, and somebody comes along and builds right then and there. And
yeah.
Well, and even if somebody else builds a conduit, it's a deterrent, right? But you can still use their conduit. You're just giving them victory points, and you're giving them money, which is painful, right? But you still have access to that. The neutral dams everybody has access to, which makes them a little risky to base your strategy on. If you use your own colored dam, you have to have your own colored power plant, and then you kind of lock that area down a little bit. But yeah, that's definitely an interesting part of the game.
I do like the variability in the player powers and the technology tiles that come out. And
yeah, that was one of my things I love about the game is those advanced technology tiles are awesome.
Yeah.
They just give you a special ability that's unique to you as long as you buy it.
Yep.
Mark had one in the last game that's one of my favorites, is where when you build an elevation of the dam, you use that technology and then you fill up that dam to the max capacity of what that elevation is, which is awesome. I love that. Yeah. And there's a bunch of different technology tiles that do just, really cool things that can be part of your strategy. I love that part of it.
When I was playing Nucleum and those additional action tiles that you could buy that have those modifiers on them, it just made me think of the advanced technology tiles in Barrage and how cool both of those play into each of their games. But
man, you snuck a Nucleum reference into the Barrage review. You love that game.
I had a hard time. The whole time I'm playing this, I'm like, which Simone Luciani game do I like more? This is,
yeah, they're both really well. I haven't played Nucleum, but Barrage is really good. And any other Luciani game that I've played has been great.
So should we get into some of the things we don't like? We've hinted at a couple things a little bit.
Yeah, this is something to be aware of, I think, is that wheel can be kind of difficult, right? So it is a fun puzzle to figure out, but that's part of my love-hate with this game is it can be a little bit frustrating, right?
Yeah.
Is the resource management piece. As you get better at the game, that's probably going to be a more satisfying part of the game, but it's something to be aware of that can be difficult to manage, right?
Yeah.
And you can put yourself in a bad spot, like you mentioned, Mark, if you don't have the resources that you need, and that can maybe drag the game a little bit for you.
The game can definitely drag if you're waiting on that or trying to rotate that wheel. And in the meantime, everybody else is doing these awesome turns and just capitalizing on your weakness.
Yep.
Yeah. One of the gripes that I have too that I don't love is on the energy track, the gate that you have to get to. Otherwise, the bonus points go away if you don't advance enough to qualify for those bonus points. And especially early on in the game, right? Like we've kind of talked about it a little bit that as you start out, it feels like you start out very slowly.
You feel like you're already in the negative.
That's right. And so when you see the bonus tiles and think, okay, in this round, I get bonus points for, the number of dams I have. And this is randomized. So the order may change things up for the experiences you have. But I felt like I needed to focus on doing that. And when I couldn't, I would build enough of the structures to qualify for those bonuses, but I couldn't pass enough power through to get my energy marker enough to qualify. So if I was eligible for 12 points, but didn't have the energy high, then I would lose and it would be worth nothing. And then I'm set back for the rest of the game because I based my whole strategy on that. I'm never a fan of like losing points because of that.
Yeah, that is something to think about. It's an interesting decision to have that gate. Like you have to get to 6 energy to even qualify for anything, right? That is a very interesting.
Well, and then the gate moves too, right? Like it progressively, with each round, you need more and more, which means that,
or you're getting negatives,
and obviously each round you want to be building and continuing to evolve, your infrastructure and things like that. So thematically, it makes sense. It's just tough, right? I feel like it's the carrot that's dangling out there that you can't quite reach early on. And if you don't set yourself up for success, then you're just going to be behind the whole time, right? It's hard to, get ahead of that.
Yeah. And that kind of leads to another one of my things. It's tough to come back in this game, I think. I think if you, I've had many experiences. I just need to get better at the game. I fully recognize this, but I played a lot on BGA, and if I don't have a good first few rounds and I'm behind, there can be a runaway leader, and it's really difficult to come back from that, in my experience. And maybe I just need to get better at the game, but that I haven't been able to come back from a large deficit. So.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a negative, but I think it's something to be aware of. If everybody at the table has played a bunch of times and understands the strategies and the nuances of the game, and then you have a new player sitting down at the table to play.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's going to be, you just expect a brutal experience for that person.
Yeah.
But also, they might not pick up on some of the strategies and things that they need to do their part to block other people.
Right.
Right. And so that could get a little bit frustrating too. But I could see this being a brutal experience for a brand new player sitting down to play this with a bunch of experienced people who understand the nuances of the game.
Yeah, and just make sure that new player knows that somebody's going to try and steal your stuff, right? Yeah. Like give them a heads up that this game can be a little bit cutthroat, right?
Yeah.
Like you can be working to set up your stuff and then it can get destroyed if people want to do that, Yeah. So it's not, I mean, that's the game though.
It is.
And it doesn't bother me because if somebody does that, then it's like, well, I set myself up for something that I shouldn't have set myself up for.
I was trying to do something that was unrealistic.
Yeah.
Somebody did what they were supposed to and blocked me.
Exactly.
Right?
And I don't get offended by that. But if somebody goes into the game not knowing that that's part of the game, you just need to let them know that going into it, they're like, yeah, this can be a little cutthroat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, part of it too is the high level of complexity. There's so many different things that you can do. The first play, I mean, I feel like we benefited, or I don't think your first play was at the table, was it?
I had done BGA a long time ago, but I only understood a portion of the rules. So,
see, I think it was beneficial. Like the first play that I had was actually at the table where, despite all the moving parts, we were focused on what's taking place. I could see what I'm doing. I could see what you're doing in real time, and I could kind of understand the mechanics a little faster. And the adaptation on BGA is really great, but the downside is that a lot of times when we're playing those, it's in multitask mode, right? Where you take your turn, you go do something else real quick, and then you come back, and without that continuity, high level of complexity, and not being completely focused, you miss something, and all it takes is one misstep, and it sets you behind.
Yeah.
So if I give a recommendation, if you can get it on the table first, do that. Make sure you understand the mechanics and understand that the complexity is up there. There's multiple ways to score, but you have to be thoughtful in how you do that. Will be to your advantage, as opposed to just jumping into BGA, reading the directions and thinking, okay, let's do this. And
I learned the game on BGA. I was determined, and I remember I was laying. So
would you agree? Like, as my assessment,
absolutely, because it was tough. I had to have the rules next to me, and it took 2 or 3 games to really grasp what was going on. And even after reading the rules, when we played it on the table, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I get income after every round, because I remember thinking, why am I getting an excavator when I was playing on BGA? And that it does everything for you on BGA, you miss some of those, the upkeep stuff, right? Yeah. So I completely agree with you, Mark. Yeah.
Well, and this is up there with the games that you have to pay attention to what everybody else is doing the most.
Right.
Yes.
Right. This is not I'm going to squirrel in my corner and play my solitaire game. You have to be focused on what everybody else is doing. So playing on BGA, this is one that I check the history a lot more of what happened since my last turn than I do with other games. So
and none of this is a negative to the game, right? Yeah. Because playing on the table is the preferred way to play it.
Absolutely.
You have the table presence, it's you're face to face with your buddies. It's the way to do it. Yeah. I'm really glad it's on BGA. But I think on the table's the best.
And I mean, let's be honest. I think that there's a lot of moving pieces, and having that on the table where you can see the whole thing. Like I have a large display monitor that I play, that I use for work, and even then I'm having to scroll and move over to try and see the whole thing in one view. And
it's a table hog.
There's a lot.
It's a monitor hog.
Well, there's a lot, and so the risk of overlooking something is high when you can't conceptualize everything in a single view. And so that's why I stand by my comment that man, if you can play it on the table and understand fundamentally the ins and outs, maybe some of the pitfalls, then you can take it online and play and probably have a better experience. Give yourself time to digest everything that's taken place.
Yep.
So we've some light criticisms.
Yeah.
Anything else before we move on to our final thoughts and ratings?
No, let's do it.
All right. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I've been playing Barrage for a while now. I've got quite a few plays on BGA. Only the one play on the table. And that play was amazing. It was so good. We were all within, was it like 4 or 5 points at the end? Somehow you, Mark, made this. I don't know how that happened. You came. He
did make a big comeback.
You did make a big comeback. So that maybe invalidates my comment from before. I don't know. But it was amazing and it was fun. And this game is so satisfying to play. I mentioned before when you get your network build up and you start flowing the water through your own network and you get points and you, we mentioned how the end of round scoring is kind of rough because you got to get to a certain threshold. When you get to that threshold and you're like, I'm not taking negative points this round. Yes. It's awesome. And that's super satisfying and super fun. The technology tiles are really cool. The variable player powers are cool. When you, it's the guy that you played with,
the German dude.
When you uncover your third power plant, you can do 2 productions in a row. Yes. That's the bonus.
They have to be different
structures,
powerhouses.
Different powerhouses, but you can flow from one to the next and do it immediately.
Yeah.
That is so powerful and so fun. And everybody has those special abilities that if you can, do them well, you're going to score a lot of points, and that's just, it makes you feel unique and makes you feel powerful. I love that about the game. The game can be a little bit frustrating at times when, like I mentioned, you can't manage your resources. I just need to get better at the game, but that can be a little bit frustrating. There's a few little things that I may not like, but overall, I think it's an amazing design. I have a good time playing it. I'm glad it's in my collection, and I'm looking forward to exploring it more. I have a Kickstarter coming, the Colorado Connection, which is cool because we live in Colorado. I'm excited to play that. There's a dual version that I'm getting, so it's a 2-player, which I'm excited to see what they do with that. That's cool. So overall, I really like the game. Final rating. I think I'm going to give this one an 82. Great game. Probably not my favorite Luciani, but I like it. It's a good one. So 82.
And that is on a scale of 0 to 100.
0 to 100.
I'm a little surprised with that. I thought you were going to go
A little bit higher?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I made a comment to you, I don't know how long ago, and I'm like, do I like Barrage? I was trying to just figure out if I even liked it at that point. And that was after a lot of BGA plays. And then I figured out that I did like it. And then especially when we got it on the table, I'm like, this game is amazing. But there are just some things that just aren't my favorite about it. But I think 82 is a great score.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
it's a game that I'm going to play. Like I said, I'm glad I have it in my collection. I'll play it at any time. Right. So, yeah.
Cool. Mark?
Yeah, that's a good assessment. It's interesting that that's the question that you raised. Do I like Barrage? Because I was asking myself that too. In my experience with this game, I played it twice, 2 different times, and the experience has been very different. The first time that we played it, I'll admit that I struggled trying to figure out what I should be doing. So I always look at the first play as, I just want to make sure I'm not breaking the rules, right?
Yeah.
What the outcome?
Pretty low bar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The outcome will be what it is, no worries. But I just want to make sure I can understand this so I can go back and really, put some thought into it. It takes multiple. And there was a couple of plays that I made in that first game, or a couple of moves that I made in that first play that were total like face palm, like, oh, that was the stupidest thing to do, ever. And then there was a couple that worked out the way I wanted them to. And when they finally did, I was like, number one, hallelujah. And number two, wow, that was okay. Now I see what I should have been working towards this whole time. And that aha moment kind of went off. And I went home, thinking about that and replaying the moves in my mind, which is always a good sign of a good game, right? I mean, there's sometimes you walk away and you're like, it's not even worth the second thought because I'll never do that again. Not what I experienced. And then the second play that we've had was online, which I did not well at all. I made a couple of mistakes that I think I'll probably chalk up to, not being focused and overlooking some things, and didn't have as great a time doing. But all that being said, I wanted to go back and, have my own redemption story. So the way I would rate this game is that I enjoyed it. I didn't rank it as highly as Kevin would or some of the other games that we've played. The number I'd probably put it at about a 65 or a 70 out of 100, just because.
Got to have a final score.
Which one?
We'll give him the 70.
Okay.
Put it as a 70.
Okay, got it.
Put it as a 70, because I think that a lot of the experience was based on my learning curve that I was on. There's some things that I didn't quite love that I'm still trying to decide, is that because I'm too stupid to see through it and avoid? Or is there just some, the way that the complexity is it's a little too overbearing. I don't know yet. But what I will say is that this is a game that I'll give the benefit of the doubt to. And if it's on the table, then I'll definitely play it. And I won't, roll my eyes or feel like I'm settling for it at all. It's something that I would look forward to. I don't know that I would put it ahead of some of the other games that are a little more tried and true that I think are that we've been high on. But at the same time, it's a really cool play. It's unique. Some of the, worker placement is fairly common, but it's unique. It's got its own benefits that it can offer and that you don't see elsewhere. So that's my take.
Nice.
I didn't get as many plays as I normally do of the games that we do feature reviews of, but I have enjoyed all of my plays of this game. I think it's a amazing design mechanically. The theme put me to sleep. 4 rivers next to each other fighting over water rights. It just doesn't do anything for me. But the mechanics and how they all interact is such a good experience. That sitting around your table and playing this game for my first real play was a blast. And the hours that we spent at the table flew by, and it was just awesome and it was exciting. My favorite things about the game are the variable costs of the different actions that you can take and the kind of supply and demand feel that they have to them, where there's only a certain amount of this action that you can do, and as people start to do it, it becomes more and more expensive to everybody else. I think that's a really cool design choice. I like the wheel. I've taken advantage of some of the neutral or existing structures that are already on the board, so I haven't been building as many buildings as you guys have, I think. So the wheel hasn't been too big of a problem, except for that first BGA game where I had no idea what I was doing. And what are we doing, guys? Like, how do I get the stupid wheel to rotate? Like, and having said that, like, I really enjoy this game. I tend to rate games a little bit higher. I think I'm a little more, I don't know. I go a little higher on average, I think, than other people on the show. Maybe a little bit, generally. I looked at some of the other games that I've rated in this range, and it's Skyrise and Apiary, and I think I like this game more than those games. So I'm going to give it an 83.
Oh, okay.
I look forward to getting this to the table with some of the expansion content. I look forward to exploring it more. I want to have a single game of this constantly going on BGA. You know, finish a game, start the next one. Finish a game, start the next one. I never want to have more than one game of this going at one time. But this is a great design. I love the mechanics. Some very interesting things to still explore. The theme just does nothing for me, but I absolutely think it is a great game. So I'm going to go with 83.
Nice. And the Leeward project is on BGA. So we have that to explore
that.
Once, we get, our fill of the base game, which I think there's a lot to explore there. Right?
Yeah.
So
and
that's cool.
And when you get the dual version, I mean, that sounds cool. Adding the Colorado project.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
So some definitely a cool design here with lots of interesting and interesting mechanics that balance well and interact well with each other.
Nice. So that's Barrage.
So sometimes at the end of our episodes, we talk about games or announcements or news that we're excited about. We haven't done that for a while. We've had some longer episodes without doing that.
Right.
Well, let's get into it. You've got something, Kevin.
Oh, I do. This was officially announced today. It is Star Trek Captain's Chair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we got a sneak peek of this. I didn't know what it was going to be called, right? But this is the latest from David Turtsey and Nigel Buckle.
Yeah.
Based on the Imperium system, it's a Star Trek themed version of that. And this is produced by WizKids. So they just announced this today. I have still yet to play Imperium. You've played it, I think, a few times, right, Tyler? And you said it's a longer game.
It took a longer game.
Yeah.
The newer one has a shorter version.
It does.
I think it was fantastic.
Right.
But it is a little bit hard to get to the table with different people.
Yeah. And I don't know what kind of changes are going to be in this one, and if it's going to be a similar length. I'm excited to dig into it and figure it out and play it. I love Star Trek. I think it's fantastic. You can play as Picard, Michael Burnham from Next Generation. You're just various captains in the Star Trek universe. Awesome. Insta-buy for me.
And so we interviewed David Turtsey back in episode 59 when we did a feature review of Voidfall, and he talked about this game.
He did.
And then he was like, I think they're going to announce it next week.
Nope.
And so we delayed releasing that episode a little bit, and finally it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm just going to cut out those parts.
Got to release it.
We're going to release it. And now, like 2 months later, they finally announced it.
Yeah.
But it was cool to hear about it back then. And
it was.
I mean, I'm sure you're getting this, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm getting it for sure. So you can play my copy when it comes, but I don't know if I'm going to pre-order. They try to dangle like something in, 5 free cards if you pre-order, you get this bonus pack.
Right.
So, but then you're paying full retail and shipping costs as well. So I don't know if I'm going to do that, but we'll see. I'll get it eventually. So Star Trek Captains.
Nice.
Captain's Chair. I got something else. I got a lot of things I'm excited about. Oh yeah, for sure. So new Lorcana set was released. So two weeks ago, it was released in game shops. It was released in big box stores on Friday. So I stocked the Target by me Friday morning. And got there a little early. They were still stocking, and they had the whole aisle shut down. So I said, okay, I'll come back in a few hours. Came back in a few hours. They just finished up. Picked up way too much of Lorcana. I think this may be the last set I collect.
I thought you were starting to
I'm playing
trail off a little bit.
A little bit. That's mainly due to just my daughter was super busy and with dance and school and stuff. But now that
finals.
It's finals. Now that it's the summertime, we can play a little bit more. Okay, the cool thing about this set, though, is it introduces a cooperative mode. So you can play up to 4 cooperatively against Ursula, and it looks amazing. We haven't played it yet. We've built decks around the new set, and we'll start playing shortly. So
cool.
It's fantastic.
I mean,
still love it.
We're talking about card games. I got a couple orders of unlimited boosters.
Oh, you did?
For the next set, which is coming out in July, I think.
Did you got whole booster boxes?
Yes, but I had to work very hard
to
do that. I was going to buy one.
Just because of availability?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I've been checking every day for pre-orders.
Yep.
I got a bunch of stuff on Game Nerds. And then like our favorite local game store, Night Owl Games.
Yep.
They put up pre-order, and as I was going to check out,
immediately sold out, right?
It sold out. And so I ordered one from some store in New York, and I've got stuff coming from Game Nerds, but they've been slowly featuring some of the new cards and some of the new leaders and stuff.
So there's leaks and stuff.
I can't wait because I've been loving this game. I went the unlimited path, and it's been fantastic. And Logan and I probably have played this 20 or 30 times. Not quite as many as you guys have played Lorcana, but
we're into the 80s, getting close to 90 for us.
I'm getting to the point where I'm about ready to build a new deck, and I think I'm going to build one more deck with the first set before the next set comes out. Maybe a couple more.
How many decks have you built?
I've built 2, and I've modified them slightly. So,
man, I've built probably 25 decks.
Oh,
maybe.
wow.
Yeah. And the good ones I save.
Right.
To go back to, right? And then the crap ones, I'm like, well, just try again. Build something else. Like my latest is a broom deck, which is amazing.
So I export an image from the site that I use that has the counts for each cards and what you have in your deck, and then I put that picture, I attach it in BG Stats.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So that I can go back if I ever want to go back to that deck. But yeah.
Very cool.
Star Wars Unlimited. It's awesome. So
nice. Very cool.
It's a good time for collectible card games.
Not a good time for my bank account.
Yes.
I got something else I'm excited about. No, just kidding.
What about you, Mark? Anything you're excited about?
If I'm being honest, I want to play Vampire Village again.
Oh, yeah. Nice. I like it.
I mean, it's only $10.50.
20-minute game. There you go.
That was great. That was fun. Do you think your family would like that one?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think my older kids might. My wife probably wouldn't have patience for that. But my oldest is he fares well. Like luck favors him when we play board games. So I'm sure he would.
He wouldn't be, his whole village won't be destroyed.
No.
Nice.
I'm surprised we haven't heard what the Spiel nominees are yet.
That's a little bit strange.
Excited to hear what those are, but that's got to be coming any day now.
There's all kinds of deliberations, I'm sure, on what's going to be included.
What party game is going to be nominated this year?
Yeah. Which Reiner Knizia game will be nominated this year?
Yeah. Mlem. Could be.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
Lots of Kickstarters are starting to ship and get on the boats.
That's right.
Unfortunately, Cthulhu Death May Die
looks like it's delayed a little longer.
Yeah.
Cthulhu will not be arriving on our shores for a few more months.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
This has been a fun episode.
It's been good.
100%. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, thanks for
Always a
joining,
good
Mark.
time.
Come back soon.
Let's do it.
Hopefully you enjoyed our feature review of Barrage.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you want more Longest Turn in your life, please check us out on Instagram. Also, be sure to check us out on Board Game Geek, where you can join our guild, Guild 3947, and check out our blog, where we post all our show notes and occasionally post more detailed reviews. If that's not enough for you, we have a Discord server. If you want to play a game with us on Board Game Arena, join our Board Game Arena group, The Longest Turn. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Tot ziens.
Goodbye. See you later.